Live from London, it's Plank of the Week with Mike Graham.
Good evening and welcome to Plank of the Week. It's Friday night on talkTV. I'm Mike Graham and this is the place to be for judgmental views, because we're going to judge everyone this week that's been a complete and utter plank, and we're going to decide who's actually been so good at it that they've won the award. I've got a fantastic panel with me tonight. I've got the James Whale, the Laura Dodsworth, the Will Geddes and the Amanda Devlin. I don't know if that makes it sound any more important, but here's the plank. It went a bit early there. Should we try that again? We go in? There we go. That's the plank that they're after. Let's start straight away, James, because we've got hardly any time to do this.
Really?
BBC, over to you.
BBC, well, the BBC, is it still going? I thought they'd
Apparently
closed
so.
it down.
Do you know they've announced they're opening some new radio stations this week for some reason?
I
But that's
wouldn't
another
bother
story.
because they ruin them as they go along.
Don't bother.
Dawn Quaver, she's called Jewish people Nazi parasites. Now, yeah, let me go further. She's called white people a virus and parasites.
Yes.
She's called the Holocaust a holla hoax.
Yes.
And it's gone on and on.
And this is all on her Facebook page.
This is
isn't
on
it?
her Facebook page. The BBC, where was the Director General, or whatever you call him? Because he said nothing about it. None of the executives have talked about it. She didn't take this down.
Yeah.
She's been sacked
She's
in about
finally
flipping
been sacked,
time too.
yeah.
Dawn Quaver,
Yes.
to get her name out, because
Semi-Quaver is what I call her.
Semi-Quaver. But for calling white people a virus, that is a hate crime. To call the Holocaust a holla hoax, that is a hate crime. Why has this woman not been arrested?
Well, I find it extraordinary. And when they did fire her finally, despite... The only reason that happened was because the story was broken by an organisation called Deadline, who had managed to somehow match up her Facebook profile with her actual persona at the BBC. Because here's what she also said. She said her post referred to Britain as the UKKK, as in the Ku Klux Klan. And also she said that white people have disturbed the natural order of the planet, that they are a barbaric, bloodthirsty, rapacious, murderous, genocidal, thieving, parasitical, deviant breed.
Could I say something?
Yes.
Dawn Quaver. Right back at you, baby.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. When the BBC didn't really quite apologise, but they said in their statement when they got rid of her, not just anti-Semitism will not be tolerated, but neither will Islamophobia. And, you know, she doesn't appear to be, in fact, Islamophobic. So why did they have to mention that?
If I was to
They
say...
always do. They always mention Islamophobia at the same time, as though it's a real thing. Where, you know, actually there's very little genuine Islamophobia, besides which questioning a religion should be fair game anyway.
Right.
But, you know, this story, I think, you know, good nomination, because this story is... It's revealed this kind of like dark underbelly.
Had we
It's not
said
just
that
at the
about
BBC,
black
but
people and
everywhere.
called them parasites.
Yeah.
We'd be locked up.
Yeah. You'd have the
cops
police
would be
round.
outside.
The thing that surprises me is there's almost a question of mental health checks that need to be done, and I don't want to diminish mental health and people who seriously suffer from it. But you've got these people in very serious, influential positions who are spouting nonsense like this. How can they even be escalated into those positions? How can they be promoted?
How can you have those sort of views and people at the BBC didn't know those kind of views?
Exactly.
She was the head of scheduling at BBC Three. So you can imagine, I'd be very interested to look back and see what was scheduled by her on BBC Three. You know, a public broadcasting channel. Because presumably her bias would have come into what she put.
Sure,
of course,
It's
but I want
not
to
a
say
very
something.
difficult job.
I don't think that we should in any way link it with mental health, because unfortunately that kind of racism and anti-Semitism has shown itself to be really common since the 7th of October. It may be that it's a more serious problem at the BBC than just her, but it's not mental health, because that in a way excuses it.
No.
What we want to say is it's so racist, it's mad.
Yeah, but I'm
it's
saying
not a
that
mental health
I'm giving it
problem.
some objectivity, because I think you've got to look at someone...
What are you doing that for? This is Plank of the Week, Will. A bloody therapy session. For God's sake.
Well, Mike, while we're here...
She's nasty.
You know.
Yeah, she is nasty.
She's
But
got
you've got to say, hang on, how does
he
someone
has.
get into that senior a position and be able to spout utter... I mean, it's not even an isolated,
senior position.
excusable
Maybe
misword.
it has
This
to
is so
be.
horrendous.
Maybe that's the culture.
But
Maybe
that's the problem.
how bosses-
People have said,
Very much
in the
maybe the case.
wake of this particular story, people have actually said, Jewish people at the BBC have said they feel it's a very uncomfortable place to work at the moment. Only this week they were demonstrating outside for freeing Palestine. This is BBC employees, by the way, outside Broadcasting House, demonstrating.
Sack them
despite
all.
the fact that they work
You
for
mean
the
pro-Hamas, Michael? Yeah.
Well, they're certainly pro Palestine. I don't know if we can say they were pro-Hamas, but, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if the odd ISIS flag pops up and the police go, don't worry, it's not an ISIS flag.
I don't think anybody sensibly is against the Palestinian people.
No.
Nobody is against the Palestinian people.
Not at all.
Right.
And this whole thing has got completely taken out
Hijacked.
of context.
By the nutty left.
By the nutty left. Jeremy Corbyn will be back.
Yeah, well, this is it.
It scares me, though, that she will post it on Facebook
and
think that she can get away with it.
And also, Facebook,
that's probably how arrogant she was.
Facebook leave it up as well. They didn't take it down. Anyway, Laura, let's move on to yours. It's a bit more homegrown, this one. This is Newcastle United. Your old stomping ground.
Man.
Yeah, I'm going to nominate Newcastle United because they've done something completely shocking. They have banned a woman called Lindsay Smith. She's a woman, she's a lesbian, she's a champion of gay and lesbian rights. And they've banned her from matches for a couple of years and revoked her membership because it turns out that she was being spied on by a secret Stasi-esque unit of the Premier League.
Yeah.
What happened was she committed the cardinal sin of saying on social media that trans women are men, i.e. she didn't believe that men can have penises. And she did this from her perspective as a woman and a lesbian. She was
which is a belief that quite a lot of lesbians engage.
I'm not a lesbian, and I also think that women can't have penises.
Right.
Men
Sorry, I
can't
didn't
have
know.
penises.
You know, God, you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Hang on, I'm confused.
That's what this movement does to you. By denying reality, you will get confused.
Yes.
No, but what happened was she espoused some of these beliefs in biological reality.
Right.
And somebody saw it on social media and they complained.
Right.
And this complainant said they would not feel safe at a match with somebody like her there.
Yes.
Now,
Really?
she'd done nothing to make anybody feel unsafe.
Yeah, but I'm not even sure it was about the complaint because they then sort of investigated her.
Well, so what happened was she was subject to a 4-month secretive investigation by a unit which nobody knew about, the Premier League, very, very Stasi-esque.
Right.
The front of this dossier called her a target. It was a target profile.
Yeah.
They were monitoring where she lived.
Yeah, that's what we call them.
Taking photographs of where she walks her dogs, compiling this big dossier of her social media. Now, so the kind of inversion is, while she's supposed to not go to matches because she made some peaked trans person feel unsafe. He was never unsafe. She feels unsafe to even walk her dog because this dossier now exists. And the other thing is that for a movement which is supposed to be inclusive and kind, what they're saying is no, unless you think exactly the same way as us, you're not allowed to go to football.
No.
So football,
bonkers.
which has been about very grandiloquent posturing,
taking the knee,
woke ideology, taking the knee, you know, how far they're going to wear their rainbows in Qatar
But
and all
football
the rest
fans
of it.
are not known for their high moral sort of content, are they?
But it's not just...
You heard some of the songs they sing.
They can't solve the racism issue in football, which is still rife, and yet they're going to spend 4 months investigating this.
Having allegedly been involved in possibly some pattern of life exercises against subjects, we like to call them rather than targets, the interesting question for me is, these are not cheap exercises. Certainly not if you use my company, but they're not cheap exercises generally to do a surveillance operation, to do an open source intelligence gather. So one's got to say, someone somewhere in the system saw it justified to sign off a significant amount of money to do this operation on this
We've
woman,
got a little
against
clip,
this
so
woman.
let's have a look. This is Toby Young from the Free Speech Union who took this woman's case on. Lindsay Smith and Toby Young. Have a look.
There was an email from the security complaints saying that I was under investigation for a hate crime, and for that reason they'd had to suspend my membership. So.
And when did you find out exactly what this hate crime was that you'd supposedly committed?
And eventually they gave in and said, sent me an email saying that I'd posted on social media things that could be seen as transphobic.
You'd said things like you didn't think trans women were women, you didn't think if you were born with a penis that you could self-identify or become a woman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty much. I said trans women are men.
Well, I suppose the oddest part of this whole story is who owns Newcastle United, which is, of course, the Saudis.
Of course.
Trans Saudis. So apparently now the Saudis are well into the trans ideology, which is unusual because normally they would kill people for that, wouldn't they?
Well,
in the old days.
They're not into it, and it makes the whole thing laughable.
Yeah.
You know, you've got all this woke posturing in football, while at the same time you've got this secretive unit hunting people down for wrong thing, and Newcastle United's majority owned by Saudi Arabia. The whole thing is laughable, absurd, grotesque. It's just monstrous. I feel so sorry for Lindsay Smith, and I have a
she's
feeling
a genuine football fan.
She's a genuine fan, and she's not alone. You know, the implication is this unit has compiled other dossiers on other people
They've got too much money.
There's a threshold of satisfaction that has to be done to merit actually undertaking these kind of operations. And what I find really bizarre here is even I, with the very few morals and ethics that I have, as you know, Mike, would thank you, James, to endorse that. Even I would have a threshold to turn around and say, I think you're wasting your money here to undertake this type of operation. Exactly. So I'd love to see what the package material was to motivate it.
Yeah, no, I think this will be the beginning of a bit of an investigation into the Premier League, because I think that's what will actually happen.
Yeah.
The trans issue, I know somebody very well who became a lady. She's great. Yeah. She's quite well known. Yeah. You wouldn't know she'd ever been a man, and she just gets on with her life. I'd like to know why this minority
that's what used to be the case.
Have such this huge public. Nobody really cares.
No. And I think we do know the hate.
Well, we do now, but we've got to move on as well, because otherwise we'll get told off. Will Geddes, what's your first?
This is a blood boiler for me, Mike.
Great,
and if this doesn't win Plank of the Week, I'll be most disappointed.
Bless you for coming up with this one.
I've probably lost.
God bless you, even.
So I've definitely lost it now.
My son.
So this one for me is the Libby Stockholm.
Yes.
Libby
Stockholm.
Sorry, the Bibby Stockholm.
Did you say the Libby Stockholm?
It's my list.
It's all right.
It's my
Don't
list.
worry. It's the new teeth.
It's the new teeth.
We'll talk about this later. Anyway, the Bibby Stockholm.
Yes.
So there are 40 asylum seekers who are currently claiming...
illegal migrants, as we call them.
Sorry, illegal migrants who are claiming asylum by converting to Christianity.
Yeah, it's the right winner, that
which is a bit of a winner in the loopholes game of roulette that you have to get into this country and claim asylum. And the thing which makes it especially distasteful at this particular time is obviously in the wake of the horrific Clapham attack.
Yes.
And the individual who was convicted of a sexual assault and a crime of sexual nature. And
who had been refused asylum twice,
and then converted and managed to get his asylum obviously granted. Now, there's got to be something addressed. The government has got to step on this.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not so far right that I'm ranting and raving and foaming at the mouth about illegal immigrants all the time. But
really,
well, sometimes only with you, James, on the weekend. But generally, I think yes, where there are justified and there are legitimate claims for asylum, absolutely we can't deny them. But to exploit, and there are so many people affording the avenues to educate individuals to exploit illegal immigration. This has got to be shut down. This, as far as I'm concerned, has to be seen as a matter of priority by Parliament and by the government to address
but this is
straight
just
away.
One of the
and why aren't they?
This is one of the many ways that people help people to become successful asylum seekers in this country. There's law firms, there's charities, there's all manner of sort of establishment organisations. Now the church. I mean, Archbishop Wokeby, the Archbishop of Canterbury, who hasn't seen a left-wing idea that he doesn't like, is full of it. And all of these sort of, ludicrous people. Remember the guy who tried to blow up the hospital in Liverpool? Yeah. He was another one.
Yes,
who supposedly had converted to Christianity, then decided to be a suicide bomber.
But the thing is, I'm almost taking your point, Laura, about mental health. I'd like to take it also towards the church. Very, very dear, close friend of mine, Jamie, hi Jamie, is a reverend in the Anglican Church. And I spoke to him about it the other day, and I said, what would you do, Jamie, if someone came to you with this kind of request? Yeah. And he said, Will, I would want to see them go through the entire process, attend church every Sunday.
Well, nail them to the cross and all that.
Nail them to the cross if need be. But, but on a very serious note, they would make sure the due diligence was undertaken before they could give them any kind of sign.
It's all BS, I'm sorry.
Yeah, of course it is. I totally agree.
I'm not having it.
If
somebody walks into your church who's clearly an illegal migrant, says, I want to convert to Christianity, you say, bugger off.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much what he said.
Yeah.
But what we do, first of all, in my view, we kick the bishops out of the House of Lords.
I would do that.
I agree.
Leave them in there. We separate church from state. Yeah. We're not a religious country.
No,
we're
not.
a secular nation.
Yes.
And these people who come in, I'm sorry, the people who come in on the boats in the back of lorries, they're criminals.
Yeah.
They're not migrants.
No, I agree.
They're criminals.
Yeah.
If they came with weapons in those boats...
Which often they do, James.
Invading our country... Listen, if people need help, I'm more than happy. Let's help them. But these are people coming here, young men, military age, escaping apparently tyranny in their... Why aren't they in their own
James,
countries?
I ran an operation before Christmas in northern France.
I'm sorry,
I can tell you,
come.
there were no women, no children, all men of fighting age.
Yeah. They're laughing at us. They're making us look stupid.
They're taking the mickey.
Absolutely taking the mickey. And we're then meant to just let that
And we're a laughing stock of Europe because every other country in Europe has now got tougher rules than we have.
And on
Are we out of touch?
No, not at all.
But also, Michael, we've got hundreds, thousands of military veterans who are ready to stand to protect their country yet again, who could easily be supported in taking vessels out into the Channel to intercept and interdict vessels, return them to the French. Because they get escorted by French vessels.
I know. Listen, the whole
right
thing
to the
is
middle
bonkers.
Of the Channel anyway.
The whole system is bonkers. The Tory government have completely dropped the ball on this.
Labour won't do anything.
Labour won't do anything either. But anyway, let's move on from that to another irritant. Not you, Amanda, obviously, but the person that you're going to nominate. Go on.
Stroking me.
Right.
Soft. Leave her alone.
He's very strange.
I know.
Very strange behaviour.
So we all know that Sadiq Khan is a real firm favourite of this show.
Absolutely.
But I've actually never nominated him before.
Good.
So, this is my first time.
Yay.
And I've got to get some notes out because there's so many numbers in this story. But basically, it's all about this secret technology that he's been creating with TfL.
Yeah.
And it's going to end up...
He keeps denying it, doesn't he?
He keeps denying it because he's not being transparent about it.
Right.
But what we think is happening is it's going to be an introduction for a pay-per-mile charge for drivers who are already really struggling with ULEZ.
ULEZ, and expanded ULEZ.
Yes.
Congestion charge.
Yeah.
Parking charges.
The part of the story that I
Breathing charges.
Yeah.
There's so much to this. I mean, obviously, the fact that if that's what he's planning down the line in some sort of, eco-crazy, he's just so anti-car, it's just unbelievable. Anti-working person, anti-ordinary person who's just trying to get around London. And
that's the key thing.
Yeah.
Anti-ordinary person.
Of course,
and
it really
traders.
is. So that's all awful. But also, it's the fact that this scheme, they've got 157 staff who they've employed already to be working on this. They've been working on it since 2021. And some of them in this group are paid more than £100,000.
What?
To work on this secret technology that we don't know about.
No.
We don't understand all the details of it. He's
and every
being
time somebody
very
asks him about
shady.
it, he just denies that it's going on. It's incredible. And also this week, he's been upbraided by the advertising standards people because there was a radio ad that he put out that he approved in which he said that the most polluted place in London is inside your car.
Rubbish.
One is clearly not true because the tube is far more polluted than the inside your car.
Yeah.
But he's basically been accused of cooking the books again and making up figures for air quality, claiming that he's cleaned up London because of the air quality being better, when in fact it isn't any better.
Hang on, that £5 million New Year's Eve fireworks display certainly helped the environment, I'm sure.
Although
don't. We like the fireworks.
The fireworks are probably
the
fireworks are probably all those non-firework fireworks, aren't they?
Yeah, they're not. They're all the pirates.
It's a very worthy contender.
It's not gunpowder.
But the thing is, you have to get with the programme. You have to understand what's happening. There may be somebody here on this panel who wrote a book about resisting manipulation called Free Your Mind, who wrote about this very case study. You see, it started with congestion charge, then LES, then ULEZ, then the expansion of ULEZ, then taking it out to other zones. And make no mistake, things like the expense of parking, the 20-mile-an-hour speed limits is all part of it. The next stage is pay per mile. But the next stage after that is because they want to reduce car ownership. And Sadiq Khan is the chair of the C40's Mayors Group. And they say they want to reduce private car ownership by a fifth.
They do.
That's where it's going.
That's where it's going. And also, he loves this week's idea from Paris, where they're going to charge you over €200 to park your car as an SUV in a street in Paris for 6 hours. What? Unbelievable. But that music means that we have to move on because this is Plank of the Week, and we've got a lot more planks to get through. I mean, those four were brilliant, but we've got another 6 to go. This is talkTV. I'm Mike Graham. More coming up after this. Welcome back to Plank of the Week. We're well and truly underway and we must rush on because we've got another 6 to get through. And it's my turn now, and I'm going to nominate a loose band of people. You could call them the crazed left, you could call them, the nutty left, or I'm going to call them the champagne socialist left. Right. Because these are the people who all got terribly upset this week when Piers Morgan made a bet with Rishi Sunak about whether or not anybody would ever get on a plane to Rwanda. Have a look at this.
I'll bet you £1,000 to a refugee charity you don't get anybody on those planes before the election. Will you take that bet?
Well, I want to get the people on the planes, right? Of course I want to get the people on the plane.
£1,000.
Right?
Now, a brilliant thing that Piers did. He got the Prime Minister to make a bet with him, which he won't win. £1,000 will go to a refugee charity.
Nice.
I don't see anything wrong with it. But the left went absolutely bananas. It was all the usual suspects. Carol Vorderman demanded Rishi Sunak resign.
Shut
I think
up,
she's resigned
Carol.
I think she's demanded his resignation
Carol
3 days. There's the tweet.
Her mouth shut.
Resign Rishi Sunak. That was the first time, I think, this week she asked him to resign. She's already asked him again for a different reason. Alistair Campbell, the man that took us into a fake war with Iraq.
Another one of my favourites.
He says that Rishi Sunak was in the wrong. They were all over themselves. Never mind the fact that there's a lot of problems in this country. The one thing that they were actually going crazy about was the fact that this was a shocking thing to have put people's lives into a bet. Two very rich men making a bet. I mean, do give over.
It's for clout.
It was quite ridiculous.
They could have done £1 million each bet. They could both afford
They
it.
could have done £1 million quid.
True, yeah.
But I mean, Piers, as you know, we know very well, and he said, to be honest, it sort of came to him while he was in the midst of the conversation. It wasn't something that he cooked up. He didn't try and catch anybody out. And he's been on his own show defending the whole idea. But it got so bad that there was a question in Parliament. This is from Alistair Carmichael, a Lib Dem. Check it out.
Can you confirm for the House, Mr Deputy Speaker, that a £1,000 direct pecuniary personal interest is one which should be registered and declared by the House authorities?
I mean, it was all the usual suspects. I mean, you could never have believed the amount of nonsense.
Is there a point to the Liberal Democrats anymore?
There really isn't.
Democracy.
No, they're now not even third party in power. They're now.
Hang on, who's the third one now?
Well, it's Reform.
Oh, of course it is. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And polling with bigger numbers than the Lib Dems.
I wouldn't be hot.
Dims, as I like to call them.
I just want to say something about Carol Vorderman. I used to be very friendly. I haven't seen Carol
Lots
for
of people
ages.
used to be very friendly with her.
And she has changed immeasurably. Carol, I don't know what's happened, and I'd maybe
She's become
invite you on
obsessed.
my show to talk about it.
She's become obsessed with getting the Tories out, and she tweets all day, every day.
She can relax. She can just relax. It's going to happen. Chill, Carol.
But if it happens,
They're going to be
we're
out.
going to be in a worse situation, aren't we?
Mike, can I say,
Sorry, Amanda, please.
Mike, I love that you say champagne socialists. I think that's just the perfect way to sum them up, because what I find so frustrating about this is that these people are the ones who they don't want anyone to do well in life. They don't want anyone to have money. They don't want success.
They're all
and they
loaded.
look
Exactly.
and they look at Rishi and they look at Piers, and it's either jealousy, bitterness, don't want them to do as well, or it's that they're hiding their own wealth.
Yes.
And just to be a champagne socialist, they're busy drinking their fizz. And they want everyone else to stay down there, and that's what I absolutely.
And there was plenty of
understand
Labour MPs joining in as well and saying how disgraceful it was that people's lives
Well,
were
easy.
being put
It's
at
an
risk.
easy
I mean,
coattail
they don't
to ride,
even want
isn't
to consider the truth. They don't want to think that actually by welcoming people and telling them, refugees must come to Britain via this method, which is making fortunes for illegal smugglers and people traffickers and people who will kill other people just to make a few quid. They don't seem to realise that that's what they're encouraging.
They need to stop the charities that are actually helping people come here illegally.
Yeah.
And there are a number.
No,
They need to
absolutely.
stop them.
But what's wrong with giving a refugee charity
£1,000
£1,000 when they both have more than?
I mean, I
£1,000
personally
to give?
wouldn't,
That's-
and Piers and I don't agree on the actual issue of what we should do with some of these people. But, it was just the complete
not
and
like they were
utter
taking a bet for
hypocrisy
themselves.
of these lefties who just thought this was the worst thing that could have ever happened in the course of what is quite a lot of bad stuff going on. I'm sorry, I nearly said the wrong word.
But you look at the
going on.
look at the pattern of behaviour by all these champagne socialists. They always jump on the bandwagon whenever they can. They're so desperate for attention that they will literally put anything controversial up to get the clout.
And they all either end up working for that radio station based in the West End or Gary Lineker's podcast company, strangely enough.
Or at
James,
The Guardian.
Or at The Guardian. The Guardian, of course, got stuck into it as well.
Yeah, they
and said
really
it was
did,
all the interview was all about just promoting Piers Morgan. Well, what's wrong with that? Sorry.
Yeah.
James Whale.
Yeah.
Your next nominee.
Steve Headley, I'm going to have to...
Yes.
Former chairman of the RMT, I think.
Yes, the Railway Union.
Who I had on the show to talk about his new book last Saturday. And he came in, sat down, we had a chat. I know him quite well. I don't think he'll come on again, though. But, in fact, last time he came in, he brought me an RMT tie. Very nice of him, yeah. So anyway, I did...
Where would you wear that?
Sorry about that.
I did talk, and I think it was quite fair. If you look back at it, I see loads of lefties have been pulling my interview to shreds.
Oh, have they?
There's what is it? Bavara Media or some...
Oh, that lot. Don't worry about them.
No, they're complete and utter idiots.
Yeah,
but
they are.
I just have a laugh. I'm not going to respond because they want publicity.
They're not even champagne socialists. They don't make enough money.
No.
They're just socialists.
But he came on and then and I noticed he was wearing a Palestinian flag around his shoulders, and we got talking about that.
The must-have accessory for 2024.
Like everybody does. One thing I'm wondering, I'm just worried, am I out of step? He, called me an old bloke who's well past his sell-by date, and I was quite hurt.
Yeah.
But are we out of step?
Shocking.
I mean, I don't want to see anybody killed. But he called me a Nazi, he called me...
But this is the trouble. When the people from the left disagree with you, they have to become intensely personal, and you become this monster.
Quite vicious.
You must be a monster. Well, we've got the clip from the show. Let's have a look.
No, I'm going to hide.
Yeah, hide. Now.
Are you arguing that the Nakba took place? The United Nations recognised that the Nakba took place.
You're talking rubbish.
The United Nations recognised that the Nakba took place.
I'm trying to kick him out. What do you want me to do?
Israel is not. That's the reality.
No.
Britain's a terrorist state. America's a terrorist state. And Israel is a terrorist state. This is the reality of it. Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
Well, it's not a terrorist state, is it?
It's a terrorist state. Right, James, you're trying to assault me, James. You're trying to assault me, James.
I'm an old man with cancer.
Well, James, don't please.
Well, do what I ask and go.
I'm not going to go.
I know you want to hit me.
I'm not going to hit you,
No,
James.
you're not. You're absolutely right.
Not at all.
You're quite Hamas with Israel.
You're a silly little man. You're a silly little man. A genocide enabler.
A genocide enabler.
Bravo, sir.
So good.
Great jacket, by the way. Really
Nice work, yeah. Lovely jacket.
What do I do in a live situation? I've done it a few times because that's, I get to a situation, you don't want to be interviewed.
You kick him out.
He called me a terrorist, didn't he? He said that Britain was a terrorist state.
Yeah, he said America was a terrorist state, Israel's a terrorist state.
I'm sorry, but he went completely mental.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do anything else, really.
Yeah.
We didn't have a commercial break loaded to go to. We didn't have big, tough security people to come and pull him out. So I had to do something. And Ash couldn't get past me to get out, so he stayed where he was. But I'm not going to get physical. I'm far too old and far too ill now to get physical. I would have rung Will if I'd known.
Right.
But
I'd have been there, mate.
And so you asked him to leave, but he wouldn't leave.
I asked him to leave, but he wouldn't leave.
But
and
he
he
wouldn't
then
leave.
carried on shouting out this propaganda. But I'd like just to take a second just to say, I don't want to see innocent people killed.
Right.
I find it horrendous to see what's going on. And it's both, everything has to stop. But marching through the streets calling for a ceasefire will not achieve anything. Except will probably bring back the extreme right wing.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see that.
No, exactly right. The clip, by the way, apparently did millions around the world, and it was what we call a viral clip. So well done to you for getting him out there.
I'll probably move to America now and be a big talk show.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Well, obviously, Laura is a massive legend. But I just wanted to say that the fact that to be able to do that and actually call someone out, because there's not many other organisations that they would just let him go on and maybe moan about it afterwards. No, I think you had to confront him, because to come in and be wearing that, I just thought it was so disrespectful.
Free speech has limits.
He does. Laura.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to nominate Labour MP Charlotte Nichols because she asked.
She's an old favourite of mine.
She asked, and before I say this, let me preface that she's Shadow Minister for Women and Equalities, right?
Is she?
Hold on to your seats.
Crikey.
Yeah, so she asked in Parliament for there to be an alteration to the Gender Recognition Act so that deceased transgender people can be legally recognised as the gender they live by. Not as the sex they're born, not even according to a gender recognition certificate, but according to self-ID.
Right.
Now, on the face of it seems like a kind of a nice, compassionate, sentimental thing. And I'm sure she's well-intentioned because Brianna Gay was one of her constituents. And so she's doing this on the back of a petition of thousands of people asking that if a transgender person dies, that they're legally recognised as the gender they live by. But there are...
But what does that entail?
Well, it's fraught with problems. What does it entail? It entails a legal fiction, for one thing.
Yeah, but are you talking about putting a name on a gravestone or something like that? What?
No, it could be on a coroner's report. In fact, there's one coroner who's already done it. But, I think it should go without saying that altering a matter of historical fact is a bad thing.
Yeah.
Orwell warned about it in 1984. The party said that whoever controls the past controls the future.
Yeah.
Whoever controls the present controls the past. And they would do it by altering records and changing thoughts in a measure called reality control. What Charlotte Nichols is putting forward is reality control. There are all kinds of reasons why we need to know what somebody's sex actually is. all the obvious reasons.
Well,
that
for just data collection, apart from anything else.
It would distort statistics.
Yeah.
I mean, sex is actually a determinant of many things in life. You know, what you're paid, whether you're able to have children or not, how you live, the healthcare you need. Whatever you want to say about somebody's gender, the fact is that law cannot change the material reality of biological sex. So while she might mean well, what she's suggesting is that we all become complicit in a lie. I'd say that the Gender Recognition
Act...
Well,
that's Labour policy, isn't it?
Yeah. The Gender Recognition Act shouldn't just be amended, it should be scrapped.
Yeah.
Because it's asking us all to go along with the legal fiction all the time. Controversial, I know.
Ridiculous.
But it's
Well, listen, the reason I said she's an old favourite is I had a bit of run-in with Charlotte Nichols. I think it was last year.
You didn't throw her out, did you?
No, she was on the. She wasn't in the studio, unfortunately, but she was at some music festival, and this chant rang out. I think it was F the Tories or something like that, or We All Hate the Tories or something like that. And she tweeted that what a great thing it was to hear, and I suggested that maybe that wasn't the way a Labour MP should actually be, conversing, particularly with all the antipathy towards MPs and the fact that MPs are actually now resigning because they're in danger. So I think we got stuck into a bit about what is a woman. Have a look at this. Why does Keir Starmer think some females have penises?
Because the Equality Act says that they can.
So you think a woman can have a penis?
Legally, since 2010, yes, they can.
Oh, right. So before 2010, they couldn't. Yeah. Well, there you go. That's how ridiculous it is.
It's just mad.
Isn't it ridiculous?
She can try to bend the law as much as she wants.
And reality.
No, but you can't change reality.
No, but I call these people reality deniers. That's what they are. They're denying reality. What's in front of you? I'm not saying. I'm telling you something else.
And what's
How many
happened,
fingers am I showing you?
What's
10.
happened is we've had rapist men in women's prisons.
Yeah.
We have men playing women's sports. We've got a new data patient software in the NHS that can record babies' sex as their gender identity. You know, it's just absurd.
James gets asked
and
if he's pregnant every time he goes into hospital.
Yeah.
And it's not just because he's got a bit of a tummy.
I'm not pregnant. But every time you go in, I hope I'm not anyway. But this seems such
contraception's not working.
Why is this an argument in a way? There are so many serious things to consider. I am concerned if we suddenly become governed by the left, for another 4 years or whatever. I probably won't be here then, but what on earth
You'll be the lucky one.
Is going to, yeah, exactly. I feel that way sometimes. What on earth is going to be left in this country? And I'm sorry to say this. I am really sorry to say this, but it seems to me the violence comes from the left. I don't see any Labour MPs
and they
being
say things to be popular, to get likes on Twitter and everything. Yeah. And then she's a classic MP that does that.
Well, do you remember that guy who was
didn't like a hair
charged,
colour
but he
either.
was let off in the end, who made a speech somewhere at some trans woman and said, if you see a TERF, punch him in the face. And he got away with it. Totally got away with it. Absolute madness. Anyway, coming up, we've got more for you. We're going to be going over, I think, to the United States of America. And also, we found some kind of woke kindergarten. I can't wait to hear what that's all about. This is Plank of the Week. Back after this. Welcome back to Plank of the Week. It's Friday night on talkTV, and where better would you be? This is where we're going to decide exactly who should win it. We've got a couple more to go, though, and Will Geddes is here, so we're going to go across to California.
We are going to California. A lovely story which will warm your hearts, as I'm sure it generally does on Plank of the Week.
Yeah.
And this one is about a lovely Glassbrook Elementary School in California, just south of San Francisco, who decided that the children probably needed a little bit of boosting, maybe a little bit of direction, you know, in these very confusing times that we live in.
Yes.
So they brought in an organisation at a cost of $250,000 of federal money called Woke Kindergarten.
Hey.
Now, Woke Kindergarten have achieved none of their aims whatsoever in the 2 years that they've been there. In fact, attendance at the school has dropped. Many of the children are now absconding from classes. And it's also talking about, because maybe some of the subject matters are, there's too much whiteness in class.
Yeah.
Another one is...
No, that's not really.
No, really.
Oh, my goodness.
Too much whiteness in class. There's also that maybe America should stop giving money to Israel and give money to Palestine instead.
Okay.
Also, we hate America, which is always good to embed into the future generations in their own country.
Well, I mean, it is California.
Literally, couldn't be more nutty.
It sounds mad. We've got a news report, I think, from Fox.
Yeah, you'll
News.
like this.
Let's have a look.
Woke kindergarten. Before woke kindergarten came to town, Glassbrook had a real problem on its hands. Only 8% of the students were proficient in math. Only 16% could read English. Now, after 2 years of woke kindergarten, the numbers have dropped to all-time lows.
That's the best bit.
Teacher looks a bit frightening.
You know what? I love the way that the correspondent said, they had a serious problem before they came in, and now it's even worse.
Yeah.
But we're
I quite often hate the government and our institutions, but I love the country.
Yeah, exactly.
And the more
But
I
you
hear
can
people
do
tell
the-
me that
you can
being
do
white
both.
is bad, or my country is bad, or the empire is bad, I'm like, I don't think so. I think we're great, actually.
Exactly. Well, if it
I'm
was that
kind of
bad,
exhibiting a teenage
why are all these
reactance
people?
about
Why are all these
it.
millions of people coming here every year?
If it's
such a terrible country from every other country in the world,
go somewhere
which
else.
are all terrible.
I mean,
yeah,
to
but
be
they're all
honest,
coming here.
I don't want to give you PTSD, Mike, but you remember you and I sang Land of Hope and
We
Glory.
did.
And to be honest, 10 years from now, I fear that you may not be able to do that because it could be inciting racism.
They keep arresting people for waving British flags around.
Exactly.
No, you
The
can't
Palestinian
say
one's
that.
fine.
You've got to be determined.
Really?
Yeah, you've got to be determined to steer the ship in the right.
I'll be on the
course.
Libby Stockholm, not the Bibby one.
Yeah, the Libby
Libby
one. Yeah,
It'll be
absolutely.
the second one.
Now, we've got something even more ridiculous for you, which is the founder of this organisation, the Woke Kindergarten, Akia Gross. Here's what she posted on TikTok.
On TikTok, brilliant. Yeah.
I am anti-Israel. I am pro-Palestine. And I am 100% 10 toes down anti-Israel. I believe Israel has no right to exist. I believe the United States has no right to exist. White supremacy destroys for the sake of destruction. Y'all are the villains. We've been trying to end y'all.
I mean, it's amazing, isn't it?
The World War is coming.
It's incredible. It is incredible.
Third World War, if this goes on.
But again, you've got
Civil
people like
War,
her.
I think, James.
Civil War in America
more than
But
anything
people
else.
like her posting that sort of material, and as you said earlier, Laura, how is she not being arrested for that?
It's terrifying.
Who's sending their children to that kindergarten? What is
I know.
wrong with them?
Well, the thing is that the parents
They should be
actually
playing.
collaborated with the teachers to agree to get woke kindergarten in,
They should
which
be
doesn't tell us a
going on
great deal of hope.
slides, playing with Lego, reading stories, playing dress up and fancy dress, doing some simple counting with grocery objects.
Yeah.
Does anybody remember now?
What you mean, cultural appropriation?
Sounds like my weekend.
That's what you're talking about.
That's how it used to be, painting.
Do you know, I lived in America
Finger
a long
painting.
time ago, and when I go back there now, I can't actually believe what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, obviously there are pockets of sense, but California itself has become
but New
an
York's bad.
entirely ridiculous. New York is bad.
We took a client
Yeah.
into New York the other day, and they said it has just got, and this is in Manhattan.
Yeah.
It has got really bad with the Palestinian protest. It's got really bad with
there's
the homelessness.
fights there all the time over
it's
it.
a serious mess.
Yeah,
I've got
but
friends in the
California
NYPD.
has got more homeless people now than they've
we-
ever had, and you've got places like San Francisco where the mayor has ruled that if you're stealing things for less than $1,000, you can just do it. So people are literally walking into shops, walking out with loads of stuff. The streets are unsafe. They're full of people taking those ridiculous fentanyl drugs. They're just walking around in a daze.
Yeah.
I mean, America is ruined.
It is ruined.
And,
And
everywhere
look at
in
and
Portland
I'm
at
afraid
the
to
moment.
say Biden's ruined
Horrendous.
it.
Are
You
we
know?
missing something? Are we missing something? I mean, so many people seem to be
Sense.
doing
Common
sense, I think.
Missing.
It seems to me, I mean, what actually Will said, and I think he's absolutely right, and I spoke to a friend of mine in America the other day, there is the possibility, a real possibility, of a civil war in America.
Yeah.
Do you think that's...
Well,
I don't think we're far off it. I don't
because
think
the
we're far
people-
off it in this country, to be honest,
Yeah,
James.
because the people who don't want Donald Trump to get into power, which is a pretty good possibility that will happen, are saying things like, if it gets to a second Trump presidency, it will be mayhem in the country.
Yeah.
And they're literally kind of inciting people in the way that they accuse him of doing it. But anyway, we're staying with America because the Grammys were this week. Amanda, a bit of glamour for us?
This is a little different kind of side of America, but it's equally as kind of bizarre because I'm nominating Jay-Z.
Yeah.
The rapper, he was at the Grammys and he was picking up this Global Impact Award. All very nice. He brought his 12-year-old daughter onto the stage to stand next to him. Beyonce, his wife, you know, they're a huge power couple. You know, they are, I don't know if you could even think of anyone who would beat them as this huge, you know, their success, their fame, their money. Beyonce's in the front row watching him. And after being given this award and standing in front of all of his peers who are all there to celebrate the Grammys, he just goes on a rant about the Grammys and saying that he doesn't think that it's good enough that his wife Beyonce hasn't won Album of the Year. She's won 32 Grammys.
But this is because he has this problem with Taylor Swift, isn't it?
This time around, Beyonce didn't react. Her face was a bit stony. I think she just was a bit like, this is so awkward.
It was also the way Jay-Z said, you know, the algorithms of people of who actually gets a Grammy it was just the most bizarre,
it is odd. Well, we've got a clip, so let's have a look.
I don't want to embarrass this young lady, but she has more Grammys than everyone and never won Album of the Year. So even by your own metrics, that doesn't work. Think about that. The most Grammys, never won Album of the Year. That doesn't work. Some of you don't belong in the category. Oh, no, that was it. No, when I get nervous, I tell the truth.
They're all a bit stunned because actually everyone was up on their feet and cheering for him because they do celebrate him and they love Beyonce. But then it just becomes that moment. Becomes that moment. Well, he was the famous one and then she kind of took over.
Exactly,
but I think it just then shows these people of how out of touch they are with reality. This is an award show. Go up there, get your award. I mean, what privileged life that you lead. I mean, I go to lots for my job and it's a different world. And for them to stand on stage and complain about that when there's all these other problems going on in America, it's bizarre to me. Ungrateful and awkward. Stupid.
And she probably doesn't need him to come in on white knight in his own acceptance.
The other thing,
absolutely,
she's doing all right, isn't she?
Annie Lennox also got up and called for a ceasefire in Gaza.
Oh, well done, Annie.
Is that happening now because of Annie?
Yeah, well done, Annie.
Yeah, well, Annie will save us all.
Didn't mention the hostages. Don't worry about it.
Save us all.
Anyway, coming up, the Tories are back in the frame. Plank of the Week and the Decider coming next. Welcome back to Plank of the Week. We are in the final straight, the home straight, some people would say. And I'll decide exactly who is going to win the award this week. And do you know what? If we don't give it to Jay-Z, do you imagine how pissed off he'll be?
You could give it to Beyonce instead.
You could give it to Beyonce instead. Maybe that would be the way to go.
If you get mentioned in his next acceptance speech.
Yes,
that'd be great.
That would be. Yeah. They didn't even get Plank of the Week. So the Tories, I don't know what's going on with the Tory party these days. They don't seem to be very conservative. They don't seem to know the backside from their elbow. They don't seem to know what people actually want them to do. And this week's incarnation of sort of numptiness was the launch of something called PopCon, which is popular conservatism, for short. And Liz Truss, former Prime Minister for a month, who decided it would be a great idea, alongside Mark Littlewood, who's a guy I know quite well, a decent enough guy. They want to try and reclaim the Conservative ground. The problem is, Liz Truss is the most unpopular Prime Minister that we've ever had. And so they would have been better off calling it UnPopCon. Really. And they invited all of these people along. And I was actually invited to it a couple of weeks before it happened. And on the card of invitation, there were 4 names. One was Liz Truss, one was Jacob Rees-Mogg, one was Simon Clarke, and one was another guy whose name I forget. Simon Clarke, the next day after I got this invitation, called for Rishi Sunak's head and said he should leave the party and resign. So he got kicked out of this thing before it even launched.
Brilliant.
And he was one of the top 4 people on it.
Why did he do that, by the way?
I don't know.
So
I assumed
bizarre.
when he did it, he was doing it on behalf of Liz Truss. But it turned out that she then disowned him.
Because no one actually cared when he did it. That was the only person that did anything was Liz Truss.
No, exactly. And I sat next to Liz Truss at a lunch not that long ago, and I mean, she's got some very interesting ideas. Let's put it that way.
Sadly, none when she was in office.
Has no clue that what she did was in any way wrong. Doesn't seem to agree with anyone who's been critical of her, and thinks what we need in this country is a proper revolution, which is pretty interesting talk. But let's have a look at Lee Anderson, who was also in position there. They're just basically blowing up the Conservative Party, and Lee Anderson, up until recently, was one of the deputy chairmen of it. Let's have a look at what he had to say. I think he's been listening to me.
We're chopping trees down, we're growing trees, and chopping them down, shipping them halfway across the world to put into a power station that used to take coal from a coal mine 10 miles away. And they say these wood pellets are sustainable because they're trees. We can grow them again. Now, I'm pretty sure that coal 100 million years ago was trees and plants. Is that right, Jacob?
Now, a lot of people have drawn conclusions to that and the concrete episode.
Oh, yes.
And saying, as you've been listening to Mike Graham.
But
he's actually not wrong, is he?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
right.
You know, the fact is they're cutting down trees.
Yeah.
They're putting them in, making them into wood pellets. They're putting them on a boat.
Yeah.
Fueled by diesel. So
Yeah.
bringing it all the way across the Atlantic because they're coming from Canada. And they're delivering them to a power station in northern England, which used to be fueled by coal, which was 10 miles away.
Yeah, it's mental.
And apparently that's meant to be sustainability. But anyway, that was one of the ideas.
Yeah.
They're against net zero. Some of the things that they want to do are very, very much popular with some of the right-wing Conservative Party. But I just don't know why they're doing it now. Why are they launching this completely, sort of random organisation?
Yeah. I mean, you would have thought they'd do it
what is going to be an election
in the run-up to the election.
Right.
Exactly. And sort
They
of garnish.
obviously have given up.
Yeah.
They've given up. They think they're not going to win the election.
Yeah.
And so why don't we just try and make
Let's just go
ourselves...
mad.
I think it all comes down to being it's revenge, isn't it? It's bitterness. Liz doesn't believe that she should have been ousted. She doesn't believe she did anything wrong. If she went back in tomorrow, she would do the same things again. And they kind of just want Rishi to fail no matter what. And rather than getting behind their party leader, they're turning on him.
Self-sabotage.
It is self-sabotage.
Yes.
I've got a different view on it. I think a lot of Liz's policies were very sensible growth policies, and her problem at the time was about communication and management of them and PR. And actually, Popcorn's got all the same problems.
Yeah.
There's probably some very sound thinking. I mean, I've got a lot of time for some of her policies, definitely for Jacob Rees-Mogg, but the branding is all wrong.
But the idea of it is mad, isn't it?
Popcorn sounds horrible.
Yeah.
It sounds like popcorn.
Yeah.
It just sounds kind of common and brash.
But they wanted it to sound
and
fun,
actually,
didn't they?
but it doesn't sound fun because actually, if they're putting themselves out there as kind of a wing of true conservatism, then the branding Popcorn just sounds cheap.
Yeah. It doesn't sound
But
good
I
at
think
all.
they might be
Right.
dangerous though, because Lee Anderson is so popular with people. I think
He
people
is.
listen to what he says.
Yeah, he is. Well, lots, as is Jacob Rees-Mogg. But we've come right down to it. I'm going to put it down to two. I think it's either Steve Headley or it's Newcastle United. I think. What do you think of that?
Newcastle United.
Well, you would say that because you nominated it.
Yeah, because
I think Headley gets my vote.
You get Headley?
Headley.
Okay. Well, it's going to be Headley then.
Anyone that messes with our James.
Don't mess with James.
Absolutely. Don't mess with James Whale. I'm giving you this message now, Mr. Headley.
Yeah.
And then when you get told to go out of the studio, leave with a good grace.
Yeah.
Or you won't be invited back.
Foxtrot
So, well done to Steve Headley. Plank of the week. And don't mess with our James Whale.
No,
thank you very much to James. Thank you to Laura. Thank you to Will. Thank you to Amanda. Coming up later on, it's the world according to Mike Graham. We'll see you then. This is Plank of the Week.